Well, earlier today, President Trump reacted to Wednesday's terror attack in Syria that left 4 Americans dead. 2 U.S. service members and 2 civilians, as well as 15 others, were killed in the suicide bombing in the north of the country. 3 additional U.S. service members were wounded. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack, and this is renewed criticism of the president's claim that the terror group had been defeated. Here's what the president had to say this morning.
I want to take a moment to express my deepest condolences to the families of the brave American heroes who laid down their lives yesterday in selfless service to our nation. These are great people, great people. We will never forget their noble and immortal sacrifice.
CBS News national security correspondent David Martin joins us now from the Pentagon. David, has the U.S. been able to confirm this was in fact ISIS that carried out the attack, and how is it impacting the U.S. troop pullout in Syria?
Well, it will probably come as a surprise to no one that, yes, U.S. intelligence has confirmed that the ISIS claim of responsibility for yesterday's attack was a valid claim. So everybody agrees ISIS was behind this. And so far, there's no indication that it has caused any change in the troop withdrawal plan. There's been no change in the disposition of U.S. forces inside Syria today, and the investigation into exactly what happened at that restaurant will now just be getting off the ground, and they're going to be looking at ways to guard against another attack like that. And one of the things they're going to be looking at in particular is whether these American patrols had unconsciously fallen into a pattern that made their movements more predictable to ISIS, so that suicide bomber with his vest just didn't show up by accident outside that restaurant where American soldiers were having lunch, but he expected them to be there, and they planned probably a couple days ahead in anticipation that they would be there on Wednesday.
Incredible. I also want to ask you, David, while we have you, we know President Trump has outlined a new missile defense plan in his remarks today. What do we know about that plan, and why exactly is the president pursuing this?
Well, this plan is about a year overdue. It was one of the first reviews that he ordered when he became president. And the reason it's so long overdue is that it was originally called the Ballistic Missile Defense Review. Ballistic missiles are ones that follow a fixed trajectory when they go through space and back down to Earth. And the emerging threat is not ballistic missiles, but it's something called hypersonic missiles, which are missiles which travel at roughly the same speeds as ballistic missiles, but do not follow this fixed path, so you can't predict where they're going. They fly much lower and they maneuver. And so it's a whole new class for which the U.S. has no defense. And so a lot of this review is intended to find out and come up with ways to defend against hypersonic missiles. The subject of missile defense is sort of endlessly complex, but the best way to think about it is that no country in the world is ever going to catch up in sophistication and capability to the U.S. Air Force. There's no percentage in even trying. But if you develop missiles, which are basically just pilotless aircraft, if you develop missiles that can, say, destroy an American air base in Guam or Japan, you don't need to spend all that money training pilots and developing new airplanes. Same thing for aircraft carriers. No country is ever going to match the United States when it comes to aircraft carriers. But if you develop a missile that can take out an aircraft carrier, you've narrowed the gap. And that's what Russia and China in particular are trying to do. And the U.S. has invested untold billions and billions of dollars in developing all these modern aircraft and developing all these modern aircraft carriers. And now they have to be sure that they can defend them from attack.
Incredible. Much overdue, as you said, with this analysis. Thank you very much, David, for joining us. David Martin at the Pentagon.